This episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLTS20 for 20% off plus free shipping today. This week on the Heart of the Gulch YouTube show, we sit down with musician/songwriter Wynn Williams. In today's Walk the Line episode, Wynn gives us a snippet of his brand new single, Country Therapy. Let's check out the episode. We are in the heart of the Gulch. I'm your host, Tony Mendoza, and today I'm super excited because we got my friend in the building. Not only is he my friend, he is part of the same Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2016. My boy's here, and I'm so excited because this fellow's been rocking it in Texas right now, and now he's got some new management. He's here in Nashville, Tennessee. We got the one and only Wynn Williams in the building.
Oh, what's up? What's up, Tony? Good to see you, man. It's been years.
Oh my gosh, it's been, what, 8 years?
I think so, yeah.
Well, dude, first of all, man, thank you so much for coming to the Heart of the Gulch, man.
For sure, dude. Thank you for the invite.
So it's pretty amazing because, you know, it's been a while. And, I mean, obviously they don't know that it's been a while. So let's talk a little bit about Texas. Let's talk about you growing up in the Fort Worth area.
Yep.
And just give me a little bit of background for them.
For sure, man. I grew up in Weatherford, right outside of Fort Worth, my entire life. And then went to Weatherford College for a couple years, and then transferred to Texas A&M, where we met. And after that, met my wife at Texas A&M. And so she is also from the Fort Worth area. We actually grew up about 30, 40 minutes apart. And we met at Texas A&M, and then we both moved back to the Fort Worth area in 2018. So we got married in 2021, and we've been living in Fort Worth ever since, man. We love it up there.
It's so wild because we were talking about this off camera, y'all, that, you know, we both went to Texas A&M. We both were transfer students, and we really didn't know too many people that were there.
Right.
We were in the same classes, actually, what's even crazier. And that's when I learned that you really started to play some music. But before you started learning and not only playing your own music, you were what? You were also a real kind of cowboy too?
Yeah, I rodeoed in high school and college both. I went to Weatherford on a rodeo scholarship and then transferred to Texas A&M, rodeoed for the Aggies, and then just kind of, I've always played music, but whenever I was at A&M, my senior year of college is whenever I really started to focus a lot more. I did the internship thing. I did the 9-to-5 deal, and it just wasn't for me. So music seemed to be the most natural path, and it fortunately it's worked out.
Hey man, that's probably the most awesome thing about it, bro, is that you never gave up the dream. Because when I met you, when you know you were playing at the Tap.
Yeah.
You remember back in the Tap, man?
The Tap was the place to be, for sure.
Does it feel weird now that, you know, we're older, and when we go back to Texas A&M on campus, does it feel a little weird going into the same stomping grounds? And I know you still play Texas all the time.
Yeah.
Is it weird to go back at being older?
A little bit, you know. What's the line that Matthew McConaughey had? It was like the thing about these college girls is like they stay the same age or something like that as you get older. But sometimes it is, man. You like look around, you're like, boy, I have gotten a little bit older in this scene. But we still play Harry's, we still play the Tap. Harry's is closing down, actually. They're going to get developed, and anyway, it's really a sad moment for College Station, but I'm sure there'll be something else that pops up for bands to go down there and play.
Well, you know, one thing that's been absolutely amazing watching your career from afar, because we haven't been too far apart, it's been very cool to see all the stages that you've actually played in Texas. I mean, you got to give me real quick some of your favorite stages to play when you're in the state of Texas.
Yeah, there's a lot. Floor's Country Store down in Helotes, Texas, right outside of San Antonio. You're very familiar with. That's one of our favorite spots. Green Hall is also a legendary stage. We're going to be there July 26th with Roger Krager, fellow Aggie. There's another spot in Arlington right outside the ballpark called Texas Live. And we play at Texas Live probably 3 or 4 times a year. And it's like a state-of-the-art facility. It's super, super, advanced technologically, and the hospitality is fantastic. So anywhere we can go and they treat us like, we're supposed to be there, and they treat us just as maybe as good as a headliner, even if we're opening the show and they treat us as well as they do their headliner, then it's always, such a treat to have people that care so much about just the bands in general.
What's that like? So, take me back to when you were first getting into, making your own music and really being out there and singing in front of folks. I mean, how the venues changed? Because could you imagine just starting out? I remember seeing you perform on tailgates.
Yeah.
How different is that to the stages that you're performing today?
The capacity of the rooms change, the size of the stage changes, but at the end of the day, we have the opportunity to go make some new fans. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the room or if there's 500 or 5,000. I mean, our job is to go out there for 60, 75, 90 minutes at a time and go, sell fun.
Man, that's something that a lot of people here in Nashville do. And I'm so excited for my Nashville folks to be learning about you. But, I'm so curious about this because as time has gone and you started playing, like I said, the small stages to now playing some amazing stages outside of Texas, which is pretty awesome. At the time that we're recording this, you're going to be releasing a brand new single.
That's right.
Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, this Friday. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, actually, by the time this is out, it'll be the same week as Twisters comes out, talking about Tornado, one of your songs.
Yeah, man. So last Friday, we had a song come out called Country Therapy that we're excited about. It's the second song of a number of tunes that we have put together. It's basically about kind of casting your worries away and getting that therapy session from honky-tonk or maybe a cold beer or whatever it may be that is not your typical therapy session with, you're spilling your guts to a doctor, but, the doctor could be whiskey. So,
if it wanted to be, right?
If it wanted to be, exactly. So, yeah, man, a really fun up-tempo song. We're excited about it. And then, of course, like I said, we've got a bunch of other stuff that we have in the can ready to go. And as we continue to, work towards new music, even in 2024, we're hoping that we'll have a full-length project ready to go for 2025.
I think that's what's pretty amazing because we talked about just, next week is the movie Twister, and you have a song 4 years back. I cannot believe it's been so long.
I know, it's been crazy.
From that song Tornado. And Tornado, which is an awesome song about, what is that, a wild horse?
A bucking horse.
A bucking horse.
Yeah.
And, talk to me about what that's like to, create a song like Tornado. That's one of my favorite songs from you. And I'm very excited to hear Country Therapy because I love your up-tempo stuff. But talk to the folks a little bit, the backstory behind Tornado.
Yeah, well, I'm a rodeo guy, as we talked about a little bit earlier. And I wanted to write a song that was a cowboy song, but I didn't want to, write a cowboy song. So I had this idea that we could write a song from the perspective of a horse or a bull or whatever, and it happened to be a horse. And I always thought, I was a steer wrestler in rodeo, but I always thought that the saddle bronc riders were like the coolest guys ever. They're riding bucking horses, 2,000 pound, crazy animals. It's funny, like whenever you record stuff, it takes its own shape, and you don't really know like what's going to resonate with the audience. There were several songs off of that record that I thought would do better than others, but Tornado, I knew it was a special song just because of where it came from whenever we were writing it. But as it took the shape in the studio and then we put it out and started playing it live, it's amazing to see the reaction from people that are at the concerts, or maybe they're just discovering your new music on a playlist or whatever. But Tornado has been the one that people have kind of resonated with the most. And I'm so thankful for that. And we play it every night because that's the one everybody wants to hear.
This episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLTS20 for for 20% off plus free shipping today. Going to Texas A&M like we did, right? I'm a Fighting Texas Aggie forever, but I can't seem to get away from UT. There's a UT here in Tennessee, which no disrespect to any of y'all, but did you watch our Aggies fumble the bag during their baseball playoff run?
Yes, it was a disappointing College World Series, and the debacle with the coach is just so frustrating, and you just feel for the players, man, because they work their tails off, and then the guy goes and does what he did, and but now it seems like everything's all right because Schloss's assistant coach is now going to be the head coach, and a bunch of the players are staying at A&M instead of transferring out. So what'll be the best revenge is success. If they can go on and they can make another playoff run and then win the World Series, that'd be pretty sweet.
Well, it's really wild because, like I told you earlier, I can't get rid of any UTs no matter where I move to.
Yep.
And speaking of that, football season's upon us.
It is.
Have you ever experienced Texas A&M versus University of Texas?
I have not. No, that was before my time.
It was before both of our time. But my question is, are you looking forward to going back? Are you going to be there for that game?
I don't know. We don't have any plans right now to be there. That's the week of Thanksgiving, right?
That is Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, so we have a show on that weekend.
There you go.
So we're not going to be there, but I'm going to do my best to watch it for sure. I'm a little indifferent about the UT OU transfer into the SEC.
Oh my gosh, you telling me, man?
Yeah, it's like I get it, but at the same time, it's just interesting. We'll see how it all shakes out.
So, with football being a big part in both of our lives, and especially in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Music seems to always gather around these events, right? Football, marriage. You just released a song that was about y'all's marriage. Shout out to you and your awesome wife.
Yes.
Talk to me about that song. You had the visualizer of you guys, and was that the footage from your wedding?
It actually was, yeah. That song, it's called Like She Does. We released that. It was the last song to come out on the Your Love EP. And I actually wrote that during COVID over FaceTime. So obviously I wasn't traveling up here. I do all my writing up here pretty much exclusively. Whenever I'm back home, I'm usually distracted with so many other things going on. But Bryce Long and I wrote Like She Does. And that has become probably my favorite song I've ever written, and maybe one of my favorite songs that we play live, just because it's about my wife, and I love my wife, and even if she's not at the show, as soon as I kick off into that song, I just close my eyes and I see her face, and there could be, again, there could be 5 people there could be 500 or 5,000 or whatever, but I just close my eyes and she's there with me, and it's always special to sing that one live. And I love that song, man. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you very much.
Well, because I was listening to all the music, right, to prepare for this interview.
Yeah.
And the immediate thing that I thought of was Lauren.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds, because the song is written so well. You did such a great job. You and your partner did such a great job of writing that song, because it makes you feel as if, you were supposed to be played through a wedding. Yeah. I was listening to the song. I didn't see the visualizer. So I thought it was a perfect wedding type song. And then when I saw the visualizer of it being y'all's wedding, I was like, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, talk to me about what it's really like to come to Nashville and do all your writing here in Nashville, because why aren't you doing it back at home? Is it because you're always on the road working at home? Do you like to kind of separate the writing to Nashville versus performing in Texas a lot?
It's not necessarily that I like to separate it. It's just kind of one of those things, just personally, I kind of need to, because it's the music business. And if you want to be the best in business, you got to come where the best is. There's a reason why they call this place Music City. I record up here. I write up here. I have meetings up here. A lot of the business stems, throughout this city. And this is just kind of the place that you go to get to the next level of your artistry. So that's what I do. And then also kind of the flip side of that is I'm an independent artist right now. So whenever I'm back home, I'm doing all my own accounting. I'm doing all my own tour advancement. Advancing a show is like reaching out for logistics, schedules, hotels. I do all my own social media. So whenever I'm at home, I'm constantly thinking about the things that I need to be doing to support the artistry. So I kind of think of Nashville as like my creative place, and then I think of home, my business place.
How are you able to create a Texas sound, Texas country in the state of Tennessee? That's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily like, I don't think that you have to create anything. If you're from Texas, it just is the way that it is. I think just organically, if you have kind of that sound in your head and something in your heart that like, it's really weird to explain because you don't necessarily like have to pull anything out of these session players up here.
Yeah.
You kind of just tell them like,
they're the best.
Look, this is what I do. Mm-hmm. And you can say, okay, when we're recording this song, think of this. And boom, they do it. And it's amazing to watch these guys play because in a session, you know, you'll book like one song will be 1 3-hour session in a studio. Okay. And you'll go into the producer room, the soundboard room, and all the players will get together and maybe it's a work tape. A work tape is just like a guitar vocal. Maybe you and I sat down and we wrote a song and we pressed play on our iPhone and we recorded a work tape. Mm-hmm. So it could be a work tape. You could go in there with a full demo and let these guys listen to it. And we have these things called charts, which is
the Nashville chart system.
The Nashville chart system is an incredible thing. And they write up these charts and then they go into their prospective rooms. If they're playing, whatever instrument, they go out there and they just do it. And it's like, it's crazy to watch this happen because you'll be sitting in the vocal booth. Like I'm the least talented one there and I'm standing there in the vocal booth and you just played them a guitar vocal. Okay. So no other instrumentation aside from an acoustic guitar and you singing a terrible version of this brand new song. And, they'll just pull
Nashville magic out of the hat.
Dude, they will absolutely pull some magic out of their hat. Watching it come to life. That's really like the most fun part about being an artist. In my experience, the most fun part is taking nothing and creating something.
But you know, what are some amazing artists that you played alongside that you would love to kind of shout them out here? I mean, have you yet to play in front of Kojo yet?
Man, we were supposed to in Nebraska, of all places. We were playing in an ice rink. We were scheduled to play in an ice rink. The ice rink
melted.
It melted.
That wouldn't make sense, but that makes total sense.
The ice rink melted, and we were already there at the venue, and they were like trying to get fans in there and all sorts of stuff to get it fixed. And the stage was already set up. Like Cody was already getting all of his stuff set up. It was going to be Cody, Kyle Park, and us. And man, it was really disappointing. So we haven't played a show with Cody since. But I love those guys. A bunch of them are from College Station.
What are those connections like?
With them. It's great, man. I mean, the thing about the Texas scene just in general is that it's kind of like a family. There's a little bit of this competition. Some people have some chips on their shoulders about things, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing. And that's kind of advance country music to the next generation and the best way we know how.
Man, when I listen to your music and when I watch the visuals that you guys are able to put together, man, it's so very similar. And not similar, but just like it looks like you have inspiration from Kojo.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, your inspiration. I know that's the cheesy question that they ask at every radio interview, but your inspiration to find your sound. And also, some other names you worked with is Randall King. Shout out to Randall King.
That's right.
And a few others. So yeah. So talk to me about that inspiration. Who do you find inspiration? Not only your look, but also the sound.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, there's no doubt that I'm a fan of Cody. Cody has really kind of opened the door for traditional country to come back into the mix of country radio, right? Cody has done a lot of great things for young artists. even his band, like whenever I was living in College Station, those guys lived in College Station, and they taught me how to do Photoshop. They taught me how to do some of these various business things that you need to know as an artist. So Cody, Randall King, I love what Drake Milligan is doing. He's a Texas guy, but he lives here. Zach Top is also another traditional guy that has really kind of popped here recently. Man, there's so many great artists down in Texas specifically that are kind of doing the thing, if you will.
Obviously, we talked about a little bit of the Texas venues that you played. I mean, what are some venues outside of the state of Texas that get you amped up that people may not know about that are outside of the state of Texas that you love to play?
Yeah. Man, anytime we get an opportunity to go out to NFR. In Vegas, it's not one specific venue. It's just like
it's NFR.
It's NFR. So there's live music on pretty much every stage that's available out there. NFR is one of my absolute favorites. I've been fortunate enough to go over to Europe and play some dates. I'm actually going to be going to Europe in October as well to play some more dates. It's pretty incredible that I get to travel the world and play country music in Europe, of all places.
And they love, that's another thing that's crazy about Europe.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone that's watching this overseas. But man, you guys love country music. It's like, it's something else. I've never experienced anything like that. We've had so many guests on our show that go overseas for either CRS, you name it. And my gosh, what is it about the European fan base that are so in love with country music?
I kind of tell people that I think over here we're spoiled a little bit. I mean,
You're not the only one to say that.
You live in Nashville. I mean, there's live music 24/7 here. And in Texas, there's pretty much live music 24/7. But this kind of music is not popular over there. So whenever we get an opportunity to go over there and play country music for the Europeans, whether it doesn't matter what country you go to, dude, they roll out the red carpet for you. And it's like, they're so happy and thankful that you're there, you know, just as thankful as we are that we get to go over there and do that. It's a really remarkable experience to go play in Europe. I mean, this year, February this year, I played in Switzerland, Austria, and France. We were supposed to play in Germany last time I was there, but I'm going to play in Germany in October, and I'm going to play in Spain in October. And every time I go, dude, it's like, I feel like a celebrity. I feel like a rock star.
Well, technically, man, you kind of are. I mean, you do a lot of cool things. People that are watching this have no idea the challenges behind that. And speaking of that, before we take a break here, I want to, there's a little deeper of a question here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as an independent artist, you're coming up front with all the money. You have to develop all this, not only from visual to this. That's why I'm thankful that you're here today, so we can get the name out even more. But, you know, how bad is it on the pocketbooks, man? And first of all, a question being, how much does it cost to create an EP? So when people are out there checking out your show, and when you're selling an EP for $10, how much money did you invest to make an EP here in Nashville?
I cut 5 songs to make an EP, and it cost me $35,000. So it was $7,000 per song. And believe me, it can get a lot more expensive than that. And you can also go cheaper than that, but you don't get the product that you're going to want to get. I mean, you can spend as much money as you want or as little money as you want, but you're going to get, you know, the product out of that. It's like hiring a cheap contractor versus, you know, one that's quality. So it's very expensive. It's really expensive to create music, and it's expensive to be on the road. It's expensive to, let's say you spend $35,000 on an EP, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you have to promote that EP. So you're spending the gas money. You're spending the money on ads. You're spending all kinds of money to support the money that you just spent. So it's really, nobody's getting rich as an independent artist. That's for sure.
So, you know, how can fans help? So that I remember listening to a story about you when you were in COVID, right? During COVID times, everything stopped. And that's for every musician out there that's watching this. Everything stopped during COVID. and you're fortunate enough to have, your fans, support you in any way they can with t-shirts or just even dropping something in the Venmo. But how can fans in 2024 help support your journey of getting your music out there? Because if you're spending $35,000 on an EP and hopefully something coming up in 2025, how can they support?
Yeah, I think you said it best. Going out to the shows, paying for a ticket, maybe buying a piece of merch. You can buy a piece of merch online too, buying stuff on somebody's website. It's WynnWilliamsMusic.com. Yeah, if you want to go check it out, that's a call to action right there, folks. WynnWilliamsMusic.com. You can do that for any of your favorite artists. Go buy a t-shirt or buy a ball cap or buy the music. Everybody's streaming nowadays, which is great. Here's something you can do that doesn't cost you anything. You can share the song on your story. You can share it on Facebook. You can share it to TikTok. You can use the sound on TikTok. I mean, there's all sorts of things that don't cost any money at all that people can do to help promote their favorite artists.
So what are some of the most rewarding things about being an independent artist and that people do not see? And why is it so important for, there's positives and negatives? Go on what you were just saying a second.
Yeah, well, I'm probably not the best person to ask about the full picture of the business because there's still a lot that I need to learn. But, we were just talking about off camera, all the responsibilities that basically fall on an independent artist as opposed to somebody who's signed to a label. So as an independent artist, you mentioned it earlier, we're footing the bill for everything financially, from recording the songs to booking the shows to getting to those shows, paying the band, all of that. When you get signed to a label, things can change pretty rapidly. You have marketing support. You have people in place that can help you with social media. You probably have a booking agent if you're signed to a label. You have management that takes care of a lot. You have a tour manager. You have a bunch of staff essentially in place to help you kind of, grow your business.
Take the weight off of you.
Absolutely take the weight off of you. But there's a price to having the weight taken off of you that could put some weight back on you. And that's the financial aspect of it. Because if you do have a label deal, there's a good chance you're going to be advanced some money. But it's a loan from the label and you have to recoup that. So that could be in touring, that could be in merch sales, that could be in music streaming sales, if you will. So you're getting a loan when you sign to a record deal, but you're also getting all of the support. And look, there's a reason why, again, people come to this city so that they can grow their business and get to the next level. Just like I said earlier, I mean, if you want to be on the radio, if you want to have a national radio single, you're not going to do it as an independent artist. And if you do, there may be a case to be made about some of the guys that have been, successful here, like Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan, some of those guys. But at the end of the day, you've got to have those connections that the labels already have in place. So if you want to get to the next level, you got to have a label. But until then, you're working your tail off as an independent artist and you're just doing everything you can to do the right things if there is a right thing.
So speaking of that and going towards that same thing, right? It seems like there's a lot of Texas artists that are doing it independently and you're able to pay the bills independently. And it's also in Nashville and all across the United States that you guys are watching this, but it's very interesting to me that a lot of Texas artists are usually independent. And then I've learned a lot of Nashville artists are always signed either with a publishing deal or a record deal. So why do you think Texas artists are able to make a living a little easier than it seems here in Tennessee?
I think that there's a lot of opportunity in Texas. And there's a lot of opportunity here, but there's also a lot of competition here. And there is a lot of competition in Texas. There's no doubt about it. But like you said, you can make a living in Texas. And that's a different route too. Like there's no formula to doing this. There's no formula. If there was a formula, everybody would be an artist.
That's right.
And I think you just have to be so strong-willed that if you get told no, you just move past the no and you go to the next thing. And if you miss out on an opportunity, you don't let it get you down and you just move on to the next thing. So you've got to be pretty resilient as an independent artist. In Texas, you've got to be really resilient because there are a lot of miles between one show to the other.
Yeah.
And a lot can go wrong, not just on the touring aspect, but things can go wrong on the business side too. I mean, there's so much that you're kind of just throwing things up against a wall and seeing what works. You're doing that on TikTok too.
Well, it sounds like you need some country therapy.
Man, maybe we do.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit.
I'm going to get some right now from this cold beer.
Yes, that's right. So speaking of which, country therapy, which is your newest single, when the time this is out, it's already out and about, and I cannot wait for everyone to stream it. I've listened to it. It sounds amazing. So talk to me about, writing along, with other artists. First of all, do you do all your writing?
I do a bunch of it, yeah. But this year we've gone to a bunch of people here in town, and we're getting some outside songs. Again, you're in Nashville. The best writers are here, and I can't write all the songs. So,
well, can you shout them out real quick? Some of the folks that are helping you write, maybe your future project coming up.
For sure, man. I write a lot with a guy named Bryce Long. We wrote Like She Does together. We wrote Your Love together, Down in Mexico. A number of tunes together. And Bryce is great, man. I freaking love writing with Bryce. Every time we get in a room, it's like something just clicks. And Bryce is a cowboy. He's a team roper. He's from Kentucky, actually. But man, Bryce is great. I love writing.
Shout out to you, Bryce, man.
Yeah, that's right, Bryce Long. Country Therapy, I wrote with Ryan Tyndall and Jeff Hyde. Both of those guys are future Hall of Famers for sure. They have written a bunch of stuff for Eric Church, among other people. That's probably their most notable. Jeff Hyde actually plays on the road with Eric Church as well. Both of those guys are fantastic writers, and we wrote Country Therapy together. I actually wrote a song that you haven't heard called Denver to Dallas with Bryce and Jeff. So marrying those two together was like magic in itself. And then
I'll put in the titles real quick.
Man, I think that the hook is everything. Because if you don't have a hook, you don't have a song. Sometimes, like, you'll get an idea, but you can't articulate how to make it hooky. But the best, in my experience, the best writes come from having that hook first. And I've got on my phone, I've got just a note of all titles and hooks that I've just come up with over time.
And do you write this? So that's a great question here.
Yeah.
So for example, you said it was Denver to
Dallas.
Denver to Dallas. It's a great title. Tornado, great title. Down in Mexico. I mean, who doesn't like that? That reminded me when I heard that song, like George Strait. Now, question being, do you write your music around a song like Country Therapy? Like you come up with Country Therapy and then you write around it? Or do you go into a session with a melody and you look at your phone, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to make it work with this?
Yeah, I think that probably people have different ways that they write songs. For me specifically, I'm a lyric guy, so I like to have the words kind of already there. And then when you write with guys like Jeff and Bryce and Ryan, they're such great writers lyrically, but they also have been doing it so long that, dude, they can come up with melodies on the fly. I'll be honest, like, I'm not the best melody guy. But that's what I love about writing with Bryce and Ryan and Jeff and those guys, is because I can take them an idea, and they can turn it into a really fun, maybe it's a tempo thing, maybe it's a ballad, but they always have like the best melodies, which in today's world, some people don't listen to words or lyrics like I do. Some people are just listening to like the track or the beat, or whatever it may be. But in my opinion, I think that if you have good lyrics that are timeless, then you will also have a good track and a good song.
First of all, Country Therapy, just going out in the honky-tonk. I mean, what are some honky-tonks that you've been to that have been your Country Therapy?
Oh, man. A bunch, actually, a bunch. Green Hall is one that I kind of always think about. Whenever I think about the Texas music scene and just a bar, I think of Green Hall.
I think of Floors.
Man, listen, Floors is the shit, okay?
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
say that. Floors is one of my favorite places to play in the world. And it's so they have the indoor space, which you obviously know, and then they have the outdoor space. Mm-hmm. We have played both a number of times. But the thing about Floors, the fans that come to that show are always just like so excited and so ready to hear some live music. But again, the hospitality of Floors Country Store is second to none. When you show up, they treat you so well. I mean, from the moment you get there, you have people showing you where to park. You have hands. Yeah. You have food. You have drinks. I mean, it's just like, if you want to be a live music venue, then you need to treat your bands the best.
That's so, speaking of which, and this is actually really interesting. So in Tennessee, in Nashville specifically, especially on Broadway, I've had so many artists sitting in that chair right there to say that Broadway, not all the bars, and I'm not going to shout out any of the bars that do not treat them well, but there's so many musicians here in Nashville that the bars do not feel like they need to treat people like Floors Country Store. They say, hey, okay, you're not going to play. You don't like the sound quality. You don't like hearing back your vocals. Who cares? I got another one of you down the street.
Sure.
So it's something that I don't think a lot of, and I know that the musicians that are watching this right now agree with me on that. Now, not to break it into that bad vibe or anything like that, but you talked about Floors, you talked about that honky-tonk. Are you starting to do a lot more songs collaboratively for your next EP? Or first of all, do you have anything in the works for an EP coming up? When?
Yeah, so the part of the $35,000 that I spent was 5 songs, and we released one of those songs at the end of April called "Hear You Say It," and then we just released "Country Therapy." So we have 3 more songs out of that session that we basically have in the can, ready to go. We are doing rights. We are taking song meetings where publishers are pitching us stuff. Outside songs, which I absolutely love. We have 3 outside cuts on the stuff that we already recorded. And we will very likely have a bunch more outside cuts on the next round of songs that we go into the studio with.
Do they pitch them? So, for example, when they're pitching them to you, do they ever say the people that may have pitched that they pitched it for prior? So, for example,
sometimes.
So it's like, oh, this person, let's just use an example of like Kojo.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, Kojo said no to this song. Are you interested in this type of song?
Yeah. So when you go into a pitch meeting, you kind of already prime that conversation. Like, this is what we're looking for. So in a lot of cases, if it's a good plugger, then they will, a song plugger, someone who's pitching you the songs. If it's a good plugger, then they're going to already have done their research based on what you told them.
Yeah,
so they're going to bring those songs already. And you basically just sit there and you listen to them. And if you like them, then you say, I'll keep that one. And if you don't like it, you'll say, I'll pass on that one. And, sometimes it can be 20 seconds into a song. Sometimes you can listen to the whole song. Sometimes that's not very fair because, 20 seconds of a song may or may not reflect what the song is going to turn out to be. But as an artist, you kind of have to know what it is that you want to say and how you want to sound. I will say I have received a number of demos that have been a little bit more Morgan Wallen-esque that we have turned into a traditional kind of style, what you'll hear, in my music.
Yeah.
So you can't get like too close-minded whenever you're in those pitch meetings. Like sometimes you just need to live with the song too. I mean, I've sat in pitch meetings where I'm like, I kind of like that song, but I kind of don't. Let me just keep it and I'll live with it. And then I fall in love with it, just listening to it more and more.
Well, speaking of listening to it more and more, so we have a section on this show called Crowd Noise where fans of you, yes, I actually have 2 fans of you that submitted questions.
Oh, all right.
For you to hear in your ear right now. You ready to do Crowd Noise?
Yeah, man.
All right, we'll be right back with Crowd Noise right after this.
is your favorite publication you've ever been posted on?
Oh, what a great question. Man, I've never been asked this question before. Let's see. I've been on a Swiss newspaper before. That was pretty cool. I couldn't read it, but it was awesome.
What was the picture they used?
Oh, they used several. It was for this festival that we did in February. It was cool, but I just did one with Fort Worth Magazine, which was really cool because, you know, it's my hometown. Essentially, and I'm going to be playing in Fort Worth. Actually, this Saturday night, July 13th, I'm going to be at Rhinestone Saloon in the Fort Worth Stockyards. So if you're in Fort Worth and you want to come see some live music, it's also the MLB All-Star weekend. So there's going to be a lot of MLB stuff going on in the Stockyards as well.
I mean, first of all, you brought up the Stockyards.
Yeah, man.
That is one of my favorite places. Y'all haven't been to the Stockyards yet, have y'all? Oh my gosh. So the Stockyards, Fort Worth, talk about it a little bit. And then you got one of the best venues ever there as well. I'll let you bring that up too.
Yes. So the Stockyards, obviously a historical place from the birth of Fort Worth, you know, years and years ago as a cattle town. They call it Cowtown for a reason. The Stockyards are like my old stomping grounds, man. Whenever I was in college at Weatherford, we'd go over there and we would, you know, go watch the rodeo that they have every night. We'd go out to the bars and have some fun. But the Stockyards over the past couple years have really gotten, they've gotten a lot of investment put into them. So it's like really super developed. And they've actually just announced like another $600 million that will be injected into the Stockyards to continue to develop. And the venue you're referring to, I'm assuming, is Billy Bob's Texas.
Come on.
That's the next venue on our goal sheet. We want to play Billy Bob's so bad. But we got to get there, right? We got to be able to sell those tickets. So we haven't played Billy Bob's yet, but we will be at Rhinestone Saloon, just right up the street from Billy Bob's on Saturday. Yeah, man, I love the Stockyards. There's great food out there. There's great drinks. The scene is always a lot of fun. It's just a good place to be.
You're like put into a world of old Western Texas when you go into the Stockyards.
Yeah.
And it's even more crazy when you have these humongous bulls going through the entire street. And I think they do that nightly.
They actually do it daily.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure what the schedule
wild.
is, but they do a cattle drive, and it's a bunch of the Longhorns that they have in the Stockyards, and they'll just shut down the street
and let them ride. And it's honestly one of the coolest things ever. And for that being your hometown's even more amazing. And you know, obviously, you know, Billy Bob's one day is going to happen.
For sure.
Before I play this next question here, give me your top 3, you know, most desirable places you want to play. At least by the end of this year or the top of 2025, what would you love to play?
I would love to play Billy Bob's, obviously, number one. We are going to be playing a place called the Grizzly Rose in Denver.
Ooh, that sounds so cool.
In September. And the Grizzly Rose is like Colorado's Billy Bob's.
Okay, I love that.
So we're going to do that. I'm going to kind of do multiple here on my third. I want to start getting into more festivals in 2025.
Big thing.
Festivals and more rodeos and some of the fairs across the country. Rodeos obviously make a lot of sense for us to go play. But some of the bigger festivals would be pretty sweet too.
I mean, how's the rodeo really influenced your music? And we talked about Tornado a little bit, but how's the rodeo really influenced you? Man,
I don't know if there's necessarily like an influence. I mean, obviously it's just part of who I am. It's just how I grew up. Like listening to some of the music that influences, you know, the way that I sound. I mean, I grew up on late 90s, early 2000s music. So like you're hearing influences of Strait, of Alan Jackson, of Brooks and Dunn, Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw, Josh Turner, all these artists that I grew up listening to. And then also rodeo and touring are essentially the same. They're just different arenas, right? When you're out on the road, on the rodeo tour, you only get a small amount of time to go do your thing, and it's the same case. I mean, you're going to drive hours and miles to go make that rodeo, and you're going to do the same thing on the touring side as an artist. So you got to capitalize on that short time you have on stage.
All right. Well, speaking of capitalizing it, let's go on to this next question here.
Most rewarding song you've been a part of?
Most rewarding song
you've ever been a part of. And I think we already touched on it.
I think we did, man. I'm going to say it's Like She Does because, again, that song came from such a personal place. My wife obviously is someone who just is my whole world. And if it wasn't for her supporting me doing this and constantly encouraging me, and offering me that kind of safe place to always go back home to, then I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And I probably, I don't know how far I would get if it wasn't for her.
These guys know I'm notorious for asking this question, but I'd love to ask it. You know, being an independent artist and being a person that's on the road and being the person that's working so hard, how do you not let hate or that imposter syndrome get into you? I mean, that is something that everyone deals with every day. I mean, how do you not let it affect you? And what are your mechanisms to not let it affect others that are watching this today?
Believe me, dude, I've had plenty of days and nights where I'm just like super discouraged and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? I don't know. I think if you this goes for anything, not even as an artist. If you're doing something that you love to do and you feel like you're doing the things that you're kind of being called to do, and it's leading you in a direction that you feel good about it, to me, that's what living life is about. I mean, you can do things that are going to appease other people. You can do things that are going to offend some people, but you have to do what you know to do. And look, you can't please everybody. So you have to accept the fact that not everybody's going to like your music. Not everybody's going to like you. But you just have to keep on pressing on.
Going back to your thing about the dream, right? And for you guys that are watching this today, right? None of this was scripted. None of what he's been doing has been scripted. None of it that what I'm doing is scripted. And it's something that, like, you know what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And it's so weird to say that because I wouldn't say I was living a lie. I had a great job, but it was, you know, what's in your heart to make happen,
right?
And the right things will happen along the way.
Yeah.
And man, have I seen your music just continue to inspire me from far away because we're hundreds of miles apart. But man, your music is great. And you put the investment into it, man. And it inspires me watching it. So that leads to my last question. 2024, what can we look forward to with Wynn Williams on 2024 and top of 2025? What can the folks look forward to?
Man, we're getting out of state a lot more. So we're not just playing in Texas. We're going outside and we're playing. We just got back from Arizona and Nevada. We're going to be in Colorado. We're going to be in Kansas. We're in Europe. We're playing out of state a lot this year, and I think we will continue to do so at the top of 2025 as well. We've got, I can't say what it is, but I'm excited about a festival that we're going to be on that I've wanted to play for many years since my time at A&M. I remember I used to stand inside of one of the buildings. I can't remember the building name, but they always had like the big pin boards where you put up posters and stuff, and there was a poster of this festival that I wanted to be on, and we're finally going to be on it in 2025 that I'm so excited about. So out of state a lot, new music, we're coming to your town. So I hope that everybody will go check out the website, see where we're coming, go follow me on social media, go check out my music and share it with your friends because that's free. You can come to a show and you can buy some merch if you want to, but just go check out the music and share it with everybody. And also share Heart of the Gulch for my brother Tony.
Hey, I appreciate you, bro. You've seen me for a long time, man. It went from student's perspective to this. The way that we tee up your Walk the Line episode is you look straight into that camera right there, you say your name, and you say, this is how I walk the line, to see a little behind the scenes to your work.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And 3, 2, 1, after the applause.
Hey, this is Wynn Williams, and this is how I walk the line.
Seems like the whole world's lost its mind and nobody's seeming to find it. All wound up tied with no way to unwind that 8-ball, we're all behind it. There's self-help books and snake oil crooks to keep you from flipping your lid. But I've learned the best way to keep my head on straight is the same way my daddy did.